This is the Benefits Buzz Podcast, your weekly pulse on what's happening in the world of employee benefits. Brought to you by your friends at WEX, who believe in simplifying benefits for everyone. Now listen up and let's get buzzed. Hey everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Benefits Buzz. I'm your host, Eric Pila. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Kelsey Burgad. Kelsey, we got a doozy of an episode, don't we, this week?
I am so excited because I have a toddler who talks nothing about anything as much as he talks about sharks and how he is terrified of the ocean because he thinks the sharks are going to get him. I need to stop letting him watch Finding Nemo, I think. So.
Yes, well, that's a good connect between what we're going to talk about. I can't wait. This is all about resiliency and rising above. And if you're like anyone on this planet right now, you've been through a lot. And now we had a whole episode on mental health. We've talked about, we're at sort of this pivotal point of like coming out of this pandemic now with CDC saying, hey, masks can come off. And when we feel like there's some normalcy, but there's still change in apprehension, anxiety in that. And I think there's tons that we can learn in this episode about how do we find motivation? How do we continue to elevate? How do we have that resiliency and set really powerful goals for ourselves? I can't wait. We are joined by author, accomplished swimmer, motivational speaker, Diana Nyad. Diana, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you guys. Eric, Kelsey, it's my honor to be with you today. Thank you very much. And that word you just used, resilience, it's the word of our time, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is.
It certainly is. It's one of those things like we've heard it so much. It's like, I know I need to be resilient, but how do I be resilient? It's you have to really dig deep, and someone on this planet that encompasses what resilience is certainly you, Diana. You've been in the national spotlight for 50 years. Some of your accomplishments in swimming is just it's wild, and I can't wait to dive into some of that. And so maybe let's use the same word. Let's dive into this, right? So if people don't know, if they've been living under a rock, right, you've got some unparalleled accomplishments when it comes to swimming, specifically around swimming around the island of Manhattan. You swam
without a shark cage.
Yeah, from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage, which is just crazy. And so I have to ask you, how do you make these decisions? Like, where do you get the epiphany to say, you know what, I want to do something no one's ever done before. I want to do it at a time in my life when maybe people are kind of looking at retirement and sunsetting and kicking back and relaxing. When you're like, no, I want to continue to drive and move forward with my accomplishments. Can we get into your psyche and figure out how you decided to do this?
Well, there's so much in what you're bringing up there, Eric. I mean, for instance, let's just compare, the Earth's big mountains, right? We know what they are. We know where they are. So if you're a big alpine climber and you're going after K2, Annapurna, Mount Everest, etc., once you've done all those, you have a choice of doing them again, doing a different pass up to the top. But there are no other mountains until for another couple billion years. These are the mountains we've got, and we'll be lucky if the human race is still going by them. But oceans are different. The Earth is something like 7/8 water in ocean. So yes, there are the established famous swims. There's the English Channel. 1875. Imagine what Captain Matthew Webb was facing. He knew nothing about cold water resiliency. He knew nothing about, endurance nutrition. And his friends kept saying to him, Matt, let's go down to the Mediterranean. It's nice and warm down there. And he said, the Mediterranean, I live here. England is my heart. This was William the Conqueror's land. I'm swimming from England to France. There's no other swim on the planet that means something to me. So for me, yes, the Cuba swim was already established. I didn't make up swimming from Cuba to Florida. 1950, the great swimmers of the world started trying to make that crossing. We do call it the Mount Everest of the Earth's oceans for a swimmer because of all the things that are involved there, which we can get into or not later. But for me, I grew up standing on the beach in Fort Lauderdale saying to my French mother, the revolution had just happened. And, many Cubans, thousands of Cubans had come into my hometown. And so that island was this forbidden fruit. Cuba, the magic of the American cars and the colonial architecture and the music and the sports. And I would stand on the beach. I'd say, Mom, where's Cuba? Where's Havana? I know it's out there, but I can't see it. I was 9 years old. She had a thick French accent. which is entertaining. And she said, okay, I'm going to show you. It's there. No, it's right there. It's right. Havana is just across the horizon here. As a matter of fact, you little swimmer, you could almost swim there. That's how close it is. And I tell you, at age 9, I had a little what?
Yeah.
What? And when I got in my 20s and became a champion long distance swimmer, I did many of the 7/8 of the planet, swimming across in Canada, Mexico, Italy, and Manhattan Island. But Cuba was always the one, always.
So it stuck in your head from a young age then, and that's where you got the goal from?
Young age. And, Kelsey, it's like, some people just grow up thinking, I'm going to do the 5 toughest swims on the planet. They're known. There are records for them. They're in the books. Other people say, well, I grew up here in the Sea of Japan. Nobody has swum across this particular stretch. This is my home. That's where I want to swim. So it's a little different than hiking and trekking and climbing, where we pretty much, there's no place new, let's say, probably to climb or trek.
So you said you grew up in Florida, right?
I was born in New York, Kelsey, and I take that to heart. I was there till age 7 and had a little New Yorkie tough kind of thing about me. And when I was in Florida, starting at age 7, I always thought, I love the ocean. I love the great outdoors here, but I'm going to get back to New York. And I did. I went to graduate school and spent 25 more years in New York. So I don't speak with a thick New York accent, but people ask me where I'm from and I say New York.
You're quite good at accents, by the way.
You are. I was really impressed with that French accent. That was incredible.
The French one's good. I do a few accents. There's a new Russian tennis pro at my tennis club, and she's just hysterical. But her best thing is sociological asides. When I was 13 years old, I'm at the bus stop. I am throwing the ball 25 minutes in the air. You Americans, you have no discipline. You don't want to work at anything. 13 years old, 25 minutes I throw the ball. So the people at my club say, hey, do Natasha. I love Natasha.
I love that. I mean, I want to dig into what got you started in swimming. Was it that comment from your mom standing on the beach that day that you can almost swim to Cuba and you wanted to get to Havana so bad? Or were you already into swimming back in New York before you moved?
Yeah, actually it was before that. I mean, you could say it's ridiculous to be 5 years old. You have kids, Kelsey, a 5-year-old isn't thinking of their future and what adult they're going to be. But my father was a character. Speaking of accents, he was from both Greece and Egypt, and he had a thick Arabic accent. And on my 5th birthday, he called me into the den. He had the dictionary open because his name, the name Nyad, in Greek mythology, there were the nymphs that swam in the oceans and the fountains to protect the gods. So he was so proud of this, and he was very big on destiny, which I'm not. But he called me in, and in his thick accent, he said, look here, your name, my name, the name of my people, my Greek people, it is in the bold black and white, the dictionary, Nyad. Tomorrow, you will go to your little preschool, you will ask your little friends, is their name in the dictionary? They will tell you no. You are the only one. And so he read to me, Nyad, in Greek mythology, the nymphs, and second definition, more colloquial and modern, Nyad, girl or woman champion swimmer. So honestly, it's not like I said to myself that day, one day I'm going to be a champion swimmer, but it wasn't too long after that I was joining the swim team and what I thought was fulfilling my Nyad destiny,
Yeah,
That's amazing.
This is so good. I remember
it's like meant to be.
Yeah, well, and every time I remember watching you. We had a big event that you were a keynote speaker at, and I remember commenting to my group on a side chat saying, "I just finished watching Diana, and I'm so motivated. I'm ready to run through a wall. You have such an infectious energy and passion." Yeah, and I love that, and I hope everyone can pick that up on this podcast. And I imagine you have to have that because I know this swim from Florida to Cuba, you tried it throughout your career. Why? Well, why is it the Mount Everest? You call it the Mount Everest of swimming. Why do you feel that's so? And what did you feel like you had to overcome? And why did you feel like you had this persistence to go back and try and accomplish that? Is it something that, you talked about your story, how you were kind of, listening, you read a poem, and I love to hear that, that inspiration for you, because we all hit these brick walls in our life, but how do we find that passion move through? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
But you know what, Eric? Those words you're using now, passion. That's what it's about, more than just swimming. You know, clearly, I have had a talent for swimming. If I had taken up the cello, you probably never would have seen me on stage with Yo-Yo Ma. But so there is a point to people doing what they're good at, you know,
Sure.
and having success at what they're good at. But honestly, this story of mine, you know, we can talk about the details of what's out there in that particular epic ocean, why it's so dangerous, why it's so difficult to cross. But really, it's a bigger, more philosophical thing. When I got out Mary Oliver's poem, The Summer's Day, as I turned 60, and it wasn't the age, it wasn't feeling like, oh, my face is aging, my breasts are drooping. It wasn't really about that. It was more about, you know, this life is so short. You blink and all of a sudden you're a grandmother, and, you know, time, tempus fugit. So I got out that Mary Oliver poem, and it's those last two, I'm sure you guys know them, but it's those last two rhetorical, brilliant lines which go, tell me, what is it you plan to do with this one wild and precious life of yours? So it's not just that I plan to swim from Cuba to Florida. I just wanted to be alive and awake and alert every waking moment. So a good example of that is I'm retired from marathon swimming now. I'm 71 years old. I don't know what that means. I don't look at, you know, United Healthcare's demographics of what 71 should be. I just know how I feel, which is vital, still ready to grab the tiger by the tail. And I want every day to be filled with grabbing this one wild and precious life of mine, even though I'm not swimming anymore. So swimming isn't really the point, but I did pick something. That Cuba swim, as I told you, was in my imagination. So it was a fable sort of thing. And beyond that, I believe in the courage to fail. I believe in shooting for the stars. I'm not afraid to fail. I've tried many things that I have failed at. And I don't care, because in chasing, in that journey of chasing that almost maybe impossible dream, I've had to dig down. And everybody around me has had to dig down and find ourselves and find our true grit. So really, on the big level, that's what the Cuba swim, before the details of what made it so tough, that's what it was about. And that's what I'm about.
I love that, because, you know, I think you hear all the time when you talk about people that are setting goals, you hear about the things that they've had to overcome, or, you know, how difficult it might be to achieve a goal, or maybe they have a goal and they keep putting it off because they're focused on, you know, helping somebody else achieve their goals. Do you think that the main things that allow people to achieve goals, whether there's something huge like swimming from Florida to Cuba, or something, you know, related to their career or their family, do you think it all revolves around grit? And like you said, going and grabbing the tiger by the tail, is it all about that, or is it something that can be taught?
It's 100% grit. You know, that word perseverance, if you listen to Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, Dale Carnegie, we could go through successful people, Nobel laureates, etc. Of course, we're talking about needing intelligence and needing talents. Roger Federer didn't get where he was without magnificent talents on the court. We're talking about a little bit of luck and timing in your life. Did you pursue this at the time that was going to be, you know, the fodder for helping you get there? But above that, the word, the esprit that we need and that will get you there is perseverance. So I totally believe it's that old, you know, Teddy Roosevelt, you know, idea, to paraphrase very loosely. You know, he says, you go ahead and you sit in your comfortable armchair. You be the critic. You be the observer. You know, this guy who gets in the ring and he fails and he falls and he's bloody and he's dirty. I'd rather be that guy than the timid soul who sits on the sidelines. You know, a lot of times people write me, or people come up to me when we're, you know, in-person times and say, you know, I love your passion, and I have passion. I do. I want to live this one wild and precious life myself, but I don't know what my goal is. I can't grasp onto something that inspires me. And I say, Do anything. You can fail. Take a step over this way. It might not be the right step. You'll find out pretty soon, that wasn't really for me, but you got your energy, you got your eyes fixed on something. It'll take you to the next step and the next step. And pretty soon you'll be in a world that really turns you on, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Preach, right? Like that is fantastic advice. And I think all of us has that voice that says, no, you're not gonna, you can't make it, you're not good enough, or imposter syndrome, whatever the buzzwords of the day, but it's about believing in yourself, finding that passion that goes. I love that. I want to try and relate this to a lot of the HR professionals that are listening, Diana. I know when you were doing that swim, you had tons of, even though you had passion, even though you had that lofty goal and you had all the mechanics of swimming the right way, I know you ran into mental anguish and I know you ran into physical anguish. And I think, when you were faced with those moments, and I think as I think about HR professionals trying to support their employees, and they might not be at the magnitude, but they're all suffering or feeling some type of anxiety or struggling with resilience when it comes back in this time. And is there any advice that you can give them as they think about supporting their employees from what you learned when you swim, or things that you've taken away from that experience that might be helpful for them?
This might sound a bit airy-fairy, but I've worked with a number of different organizations and known a lot of the HR professionals at those organizations. And the best ones to me are the ones who have, of course, they have to work within the guidelines of their company, of course. But beyond that, deeper than that, the ones I know who have been very, purposeful and successful have almost taken on the role of psychologists. So they sit down with someone. Are you having family problems? I know you don't want to talk about it, but that's probably at the root of what's happening with you here at the office. Are you afraid of working something out face to face with someone? You don't like conflict, or you're so angry at that person it's going to come out wrong. Let's try it. Let's come on in together, that person and your person, and leave everything on the table. It's okay in here to say it out loud, and maybe you'll work through it. So I think that this word resilience, and let's relate it particularly to the pandemic times, means things aren't going the way they were supposed to. Isn't that the definition of what's happened to us this last year? So usually if someone's gone in with a complaint or an ask for help to an HR professional, they're saying things aren't the way I wanted them to be in my job. I'm experiencing conflict. I'm unhappy. How can I resolve this? So the object of resilience is to reach down, is to get open in your mind and your heart. And an HR professional can help you say, let's just, forget all the anger right now. Let's really get to the bottom of what's going on here. And I bet you're smart. You want to stay in this job. Let's get to the bottom of it, and we'll be fair with you. You just be open with me to start with and trust me. So I'm not telling any HR professional anything new, but that's to use a silly example with the Cuba swim, I failed at it 4 times, almost lost my life. No hyperbole, 1 time, but our team would quickly come back together. As a matter of fact, I'd be on the boat, after we didn't make it, writhing in pain, and I'd reach up and yell to the shark divers and Bonnie, say, you know what we got to do next time, you guys? We got to do some more research on those box jellyfish, and we got to get through them. And they would say, could you give us a lousy 24 hours? We just worked for a year. We just suffered through 45 hours of your swimming. So, maybe it takes a beat after you've been down to rise up again. But I think the whole idea is that things don't go the way we want. And isn't that the definition of life? We all suffer heartache. We all suffer defeat. We all suffer huge disappointments. It's the way life goes. So that's what HR is about. Things aren't going smoothly. You wouldn't be in talking to HR if everything was sailing smoothly. Let's be resilient. Let's reach down to what you've got inside you. We'll reach down and see what the company can do for you, and let's move forward,
I love that. I mean, it sounds like really what you're saying is that the position of HR is to create a safe space and to be a support system and a listening ear, which is a lot of the things that we've talked about previously on this podcast too. But I love the story about your team there to back you up and say, we got to do this differently, and pushing you to help you achieve your goals. It's such a great story and a great metaphor for anybody. You don't have to go swim from Florida to Cuba to achieve, something great in your life, but it's just such a great story overall. But I know we're running out of time, and I want to ask you, what's next for you? Like, what's your next big goal that you're going after right now?
Last year I appeared off Broadway. I had an off-Broadway show, and I always wanted to be on Broadway. So I guess right off Broadway wasn't too far from that. And I do want to, again, I'm a pretty good whistler. I do speak a number of languages, so I've got talents you don't even, have.
Well, and the accents, I mean.
Yeah, you're just ready for the stage.
So I do want to do more of sort of crafting storytelling on stage. And I've been doing this for 40 years, but more in a real theatrical sort of setting with incredible visuals, film and stills behind me. I've never written a children's book, and I've got a really good idea, and the publisher's interested now. So I think the rest of this year, I'm going to be working on that. I've got a girl protagonist I'm calling Darwin. She's a science prodigy. She's fictional, but I'm going to enter her into the Cuba swim, and she's going to become our chief of science. So as a 9 and 10-year-old, kids will read and say, isn't this cool? She never could have done it without this 9-year-old Darwin. So I'm working on that. But you know what? This might sound I don't know, sort of out of the box, but I think no matter when you talk to professionals or, tremendously successful people, far more so than myself, they will say, yes, there's a professional life, there's a public life, but what they really want to be proud of is the friend they are, the parent they are. And, if my friends could stand at my cremation ceremony eventually and say, you don't know what a good friend is unless you've had Diana Nyad as your friend. I show up for my friends. I have flown cross country to spend 2 hours with a friend who was having trouble and get on a plane and flown right back. So this isn't heroic. This is something I admire, giving that. I mean, look, I run a walking initiative, everwalk.com. I run an initiative called oceanscommit.com, which is to keep plastics from flowing into the ocean. I hope to do a lot of good for the planet and for other people. But in my personal life, I try every day. I strive to be there for that inner circle of the people who are there for me.
Wow. I know, right?
Just meeting you for 20 minutes, I guarantee you that you will have friends at your funeral someday who will say glowing things about you.
You will. It's so amazing. And what I love about this too, there's so many, great stories and things that you've accomplished. And we haven't even had a chance to talk about what accomplished author you are and the biographies you've done. And now I can't wait to hear about your story about Darwin and the swimming. It's going to be so fantastic to see what else you accomplish. And I really want to appreciate and thank you for your time coming on the show, Diana. This has been fantastic. I know there's tons of things, and I think sometimes it's more about watching others, and sometimes it's more about even more than you're a fantastic motivational speaker, but it's really about hearing your experiences and the actions that you take that make, just like you have an employee or a colleague you work with and they do something amazing, you're like, you know what, they inspire me to do something amazing too. And I know that you are inspiring our listeners with all the things that you are doing and continue to do. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
If I might say at the end, Eric and Kelsey, to both of you, I so appreciate this particular interview because, listen, I'm polite. Anybody wants to hear anything about my life, I'm grateful. Mm-hmm. But, it's not that your audience wouldn't have been interested in hearing the details of the sharks in the tropics mm-hmm. and the storms that come in at 60 miles an hour mm-hmm. and the freaking box jellyfish. But I'm sort of almost tapped out in talking about all this. So we got to something, I think, much more engaging and interesting today.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we appreciate it so much. So worth every minute. And especially hearing you talk about family and friends being at the center of everything you do. I think that's the one goal that everybody has in common. So
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. We really appreciate it and can't wait to read that book coming out soon. Take care.
Okay. Take care, guys.
WEX is in the business of simplifying benefits for everyone. Now, although we certainly hope our podcast sparks some aha moments, like that was pretty cool, but of course we cannot provide legal, investment, or financial advice. And, well, therefore, nothing shared in this podcast should be interpreted as such. We encourage you to seek out appropriate professional advice regarding your plans. Hey, congratulations! You made it through our disclaimer. Thanks for listening.